This is a pair, a most glorious pair, and we call them Luffy and Boa. Hey, what's going on, everybody? RogersBase here today with a video on something that maybe a lot of people are going to think is controversial. I don't particularly think it's controversial, and I think a lot of you guys are probably going to feel the same way about some of my choices. But today, I'm going to start a shipping war. Today, I want to find out, who do you ship in One Piece? So I'm going to share sort of some of the relationships that I think should be endgame in One Piece and that I believe will be endgame eventually. So I guess this is kind of a theory video, but this is also kind of just my own personal opinion. I'm sure different people think that different characters should end up with other characters. You know, ultimately Oda has said that he wants to keep the romance out of One Piece as much as possible. There's been a little bit of it here and there. You know, there have been hints to things, but there hasn't really been, you know, a full-blown like, oh, I love you, I must save you kind of story arc. And I don't think that's going to happen for a while. But with that being said, I just kind of want to get into the characters who I believe will end up together. And then afterwards, I really want to know who you guys think is going to end up together. What characters you want to see, you know, end up with each other after the Throne Wars are over, after the final war, after whatever the final arc is going to be. Or if you even think those characters are going to get together before the events of Final War. So let's get started with the three main characters, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, who I think they're each going to end up with. And I think some people are probably only going to be like giving me any sort of like backlash on the Zoro one. I think almost everybody's in agreement with Luffy. Well, actually, that's not true, because I asked this question on Twitter, and I've seen some varying opinions on this. So for me personally, I think it is obvious, and it goes without saying, if Luffy is one day going to have a child, if there's going to be a pirate queen, it has to be Boa Hancock. Hancock is one of the top 10 most popular characters in all of One Piece. She consistently ranks very highly on each of the character polls. And on top of that, she's a gorgeous character. She's known for being like the most beautiful woman in the world. And she's constantly referenced as one of the most beautiful women in the world. If you remember, just a couple episodes even in Dressrosa, Jolo was talking about Boa Hancock being the most beautiful woman in the world and how she, you know, her beauty compares to her. So obviously it is a name that resonates everywhere. People know of Boa's beauty. Boa is obviously already in love with Luffy. She's done lots of things for Luffy to help Luffy. She helped him through Marineford. She helped him get into Impel Down. And on top of that, I mean, Boa is just sexy. She's a sexy character. And Luffy, after all the awesome stuff that he's been through and all the hardships that he's been through, you know, he deserves a nice, sexy woman like Boa to come home to. And on top of that, not only is she sexy, she's powerful. She can hold her own. She's got hockey. You know, she's incredibly strong. She's probably one of the strongest of the current Shichibukai, actually. And she's just cool. She has an awesome power. Being able to turn people to stone, it's sick. I love Boa. I love Luffy. They've got to be together. Now, the only other option I see for Luffy right now, and some of you guys might disagree, would be Marguerite, who is also from the Amazon Lily arc. If you guys remember, Luffy basically fought the other two Boa sisters, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, to save Marguerite. He did whatever it takes to save Marguerite. Marguerite helped him. And, you know, she didn't do necessarily more for Luffy than someone like Rebecca did back in Dressrosa. You know, they were both helpful kind of characters, but one, Rebecca's 16. And two, Marguerite, just, I don't know, she seems fun. She bathed Luffy and helped Luffy after he was, like, touched by those poisonous mushrooms or whatever, so I like Marguerite and Luffy together. I could accept them, but ultimately I do like Luffy and Boa. Now, on to the second other big main character, Zoro. Now here, I know there's going to be a variety of different opinions. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to feel differently about this. My personal choice for Zoro's endgame is Tashigi. And I think it has to be Tashigi because Kuina meant so much to Zoro. It's a huge part of Zoro's backstory. It could even end up being, since we never really saw Kuina dead, if I recall correctly, Tashigi could potentially be Kuina. Maybe she had amnesia, grew up somewhere else, joined the Marines, woke up. I don't know what the story is. Oda could come up with some crazy story. I don't necessarily believe that Tashigi is Kuina, but it's a possibility. You never know with Oda. And we've seen time and time again Zoro come to Tashigi's aid, refuse to actually fight her. You know, a lot of the time, Tashigi gets mad about that because she's like, what the heck? You know, just because I'm a woman, you don't want to fight me? And they have this really good back and forth kind of rapport. Zoro loves his swords. Zoro loves swords more than anything. Tashigi, loves her swords as well. She's a very capable swordswoman. And on top of that, I mean, she knows her stuff. She'd be able to, like, classify if a sword is of a certain rarity or whatever. And I think he probably finds that very attractive. And if she looks like his childhood friend, that's another reason that sort of Zoro would gravitate towards Tashigi. So my bet for Zoro's endgame is Tashigi, and that's also the character I kind of want to see him end up with. However, I know a lot of you guys out there are big fans of Zoro and Robin. I know a lot of you guys like Zoro and Robin. I kind of see that, they're both kind of like calm. Robin's kind of been like funnier in recent chapters, kind of with Dressrosa and near the end of Zoe. She's been showing off a bit of a funnier side, but early on, especially pre-time skip, she was very much like the serious girl when compared to Nami, and she was powerful as well. I think Zoro respects her for that. So I mean, Zoro and Robin is a perfectly good pairing. I like the two of them together. I mean, I've seen lots of other Zoro. I'm gonna look down my Twitter to see what you guys were saying about Zoro. Actually, most of these say Zoro and Robin, Zoro and Tashigi, Zoro and Robin. I see one Zolu, which I'm assuming is Zoro and Luffy. But that's weird. No, I think, it's not weird. Maybe it could happen. I doubt it, though. But I do think, ultimately, the best choice for Zoro, in my opinion, is Tashigi. And finally, of the big three of the monster trio, the person that I believe Sanji will end up with, most likely, is Violet. Violet's the only one who's shown any sort of, love for Sanji at all. Even though she was faking it near the beginning of Dressrosa, Violet still, you could tell by the ending of it, when Sanji was defending her, and then when Sanji was, thinking about her and all the other things when she was looking through his mind. I think the two of them are a good match. She's beautiful. Sanji loves beautiful women. And she's still there on Dressrosa. And I do think that ultimately when they meet each other again in Reverie, especially if Sanji ends up being the son of a prince or the son of the Gorosei, because as we know right now he's wanted alive, they could merge their two kingdoms together. He could be the new king of Dressrosa. Sanji would be set for life. He could have as many women over as possible. Ultimately, though, I feel like, even though Sanji has eyes for all these women, I do think ultimately Sanji, if he was in love with someone, would stick with that one woman, and would never sort of try to betray her or to destroy her honor by sleeping with somebody else. So I do think ultimately Sanji and Violet would be a good choice. And on top of that, like I said, Violet showed that she does have some sort of compassion for Sanji. She was asking about him during Dressrosa after he left. So, yeah, Sanji and Violet, I like the two of them together. Honestly, I don't even know who else I would pair with Sanji, because Sanji obviously goes after everyone. He likes all the women in the series, but you don't normally see them reciprocate the feelings to Sanji. You normally see the women oh, what's he doing? Why is he so weird? Even the mermaids, when he was in in paradise, quote unquote, on Fishman Island, and he had the huge nosebleed and he, rocketed into the sky. Even then, some of the mermaids were weirded out by that after a point. They were being really nice to him, swimming around with him. The one was rubbing Sanji into her boobs, but Sanji, being the weirdo that he was, being the weird pervert that he was, shot up all the blood out of his nose, rocketed into the sky, and I think he lost all of his chances with any of the mermaids. And the mermaid that he thought was the most beautiful was still too young for him. That was Shirahoshi, so I can't necessarily say that I like Sanji and Shirahoshi. That's a weird mix to me. Sanji and Violet, though, I don't know. Very easy choice. I like them. Now, personally, I want to talk about Robin, because I don't necessarily think Robin is going to end up with Zoro, if anyone. I actually think there are two characters I would rather see Robin paired with. One is Frankie. Frankie's already kind of the dad, quote-unquote, of the crew. He's goofy. He's older. Him and Robin are, I think, the two oldest on the crew. So, they come from kind of the same era. They know a lot more than the other crew members do about the world in general. And on top of that, they seem to have a mutual respect for one another. Even if you remember, the way that they got Frankie to join the crew is Robin stole his pants and then grabbed his balls all the way back in Water 7. So, she's controlling in the way that probably a wife should be if someone was married to Frankie. On top of that, too, again, they're both very powerful. They're both older. They both had a huge part to play in Water 7. He defended her, pretty much to the death. He would have given up his life to help Robin. And ultimately, they've been paired up in almost every single arc. They were paired up in Dressrosa, when they were together with the soldier and with Usopp. And they were also together in Thriller Bark. So I like the two of them together. I do actually like Frankie and Robin. But that's my only possible choice for Frankie. I don't really know who else Frankie would get with. But I actually like Robin better with somebody else. And the person I want to see Robin end up with, even though I think it's much more likely she ends up with Frankie, I want to see Robin end up with Law. I don't know why I like that pairing, but I think Law and Robin kind of belong together. They both have the dark hair, the dark eyes, they're mysterious, they have very tragic backstories. The two of them easily have the saddest backstories of any of the main characters in the series. Those two, I think, could bond over a lot. They spent a lot of time together with Dressrosa. She obviously cares about Law. They're only going to be spending more time together as the story goes on. They're together right now in Zou with the same group exploring that one city. So ultimately, I like Law and Robin together. I know Law's a little bit younger than Robin, but that doesn't really matter. I feel like Law would go with a cougar. That'd be fine. So Law and Robin, I like them. Chopper. I've mentioned this in a different theory video I did talking about the potential Dear Girl Mink that is on Zou, the one who was helping Nami and Sanji however many chapters ago that was. I think Chopper could potentially end up with someone who we haven't met yet or we don't know the name of, who is on Zou. It could be that Dear Girl, it could be maybe Carrot, it could be any of these, you know, mink girl people. And I think it'd be really funny throughout the course of Zou to see Chopper sort of like overwhelmed because now he has all these options for women on the back of Zou. And in fact, Luffy even mentioned in the last chapter how Zou seems like, you know, a city filled with choppers. So if Chopper's going to meet someone who he eventually wants to end up with, who I could see him ending up with, it'll probably be on Zou. Now, for the rest of the Straw Hats, we have Brook, who honestly I think is too old at this point. Maybe he finds some old skeleton woman. I don't know. Ultimately, I ship Brook with Laboon. Not in a romantic way, just in a platonic way, man. It's like, you know, they've been through so much. They've been waiting to meet each other again. I think ultimately, Brook is just going to chill with Laboon forever. I mean, he's old. He's already dead. And on top of that, Brook's a pervert. I feel like he could keep asking women for their panties or whatever, and he'll be fine. And Usopp, I think it's obvious, is going to end up with Kaya all the way back on Surf Village. I mean, you know, he spent time with her. He read her stories, told her tall tales, all this stuff, and then he'll come back at the end of One Piece and be like, listen, I actually am a hero now. Here's the stuff that I did. She'll think it's, you know, amazing. She already thought that Usopp was amazing. She's studying up for Usopp. We even saw it in that one cover story and in the little bit when we saw them after the time skip and she was talking to the little Usopp pirates. Now she, you know, she's studying so she could treat Usopp's wounds when he gets back. Kaya has it in for Usopp. She wants Usopp, and I think Usopp is definitely going to reciprocate. The two of them belong together, Usopp and Kaya. Now, in terms of other characters, I love Sabo and Koala. I think from the moment they were paired up together, I loved them. I think Sabo and Koala are a great pairing among the revolutionaries. I like the two of them. Another one that I actually really like is Sai and Baby 5, and I guess that's kind of one that's already canon, you know, where Sai already asked Baby 5 to get married, and how, well, he didn't ask her, he kind of just said, okay, I'm going to defend your honor, and then I'm going to have you marry me, because obviously it's important to you. But Sai and Baby 5, I like the two of them together, back on Dressrosa, you know, they're both part of the Hoppo Navy now, they're under the Straw Hat Grand Fleet flag, so ultimately, yeah, the two of them, I dig them together. I like them together. And I'm actually going to look down some of your choices right now on Twitter before I end up closing out of this video. A lot of you guys kind of have the same things as me. I'm seeing another Luffy Marguerite. I'm seeing another Frankie Robin, a Sanji Viola, Chopper. I see a weird one here, Kaido and Vivi. I don't even know what that is supposed to be. I definitely don't think those two characters would end up together. Kaido and Vivi? Kaido and Vivi? Very strange. Zoro and Tashigi, Luffy and Straw Hat. That's pretty funny. Luffy and Meat. That's another pretty good one. Usopp and Kaya. I'm seeing another Usopp and Kaya, another Sabo and Koala, another Robin and Law. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered all the big ones. I think the other big one, and I kind of talked about this in my Shanks theory that I did a couple days ago. I think the baby that Makino has right now, Makino or Makino or however you say her name, all the way back in Luffy's hometown. I think that baby is actually Shanks' baby. So I'm going to say that Makino and Shanks belong together as well. I think they're OTP. I think Shanks, you know, Shanks' baby is that baby. That's Shanks' son, and I do think that'll, you know, become important later on in the story. So ultimately, those are my ships. Those are my choices for ships. But guys, please share with me in the comments below. I'm very interested who you guys want to see end up together. Who do you think is going to end up together? Am I totally wrong with any of my predictions or any of my choices? The only ones I really feel passionate about is I really think Luffy and Boa belong together, and I think Bart belongs with like a statue of Luffy or something. And so I really like Zoro and Tashigi as well, and I really like Robin and Law. I really like Robin and Law together, and I wish there was some other concrete thing for me to like explain why I like them together, but those are my choices. Like this video if you liked anything I had to say. Please be sure to subscribe because I bring you guys One Piece videos every week, and until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye!